Hello everyone, my name is Miss Ashley from Fibo Kids Art Academy and welcome to another amazing art class. Today we will be learning about Andy Warhol, a famous pop artist during the 20th century. But before we start our project, we're going to read Uncle Andy's and then we will begin our project. For a list of supplies, be sure to check the description of this video. Let's go ahead and get started. Looking back on those days, the one thing I remember the most is thinking that my dad had the best darn job in the world. He was a junk man. Our yard looks like a junkyard. The real junkyard was a mile away up a steep hill. Dad's job was to take things apart and separate them into metals like aluminum, copper, brass, and steel. Dad was always bringing junk home. He made art with it. My mom was always yelling at him to get rid of all the junk. One day, Dad came home and said it was time to visit our famous artist Uncle Andy in New York. We had to get ready. Dad worked on the car. Mary and Eva made sandwiches. Georgie and I packed, and Maddie and Marty were just in the way. Next morning, we drove to New York. All of a sudden, the world became very different. There were giant buildings, honking taxis, and people going every which way. Dad slowly wove his way uptown to Uncle Andy's. There we were, all 8 of us, standing in front of a huge black door, ringing the bell. The door opened, and Uncle Andy was so surprised. We all went in. There were always new things to see. Right in the middle of the entranceway, there was a giant piece of crumpled metal. Andy said it was a famous piece of art. Uncle Andy was always making art. We loved watching him in his studio. He made regular stuff like soup cans, pop bottles, and money look like real art. With all of the commotion that we caused, Uncle Andy decided it might be better to put us to work. He gave us all a different job. He knew I liked to do art, so he let me help him with his giant paint-by-number sailboat painting. At night, Uncle Andy went out to parties to see other famous artists. In the morning, we waited patiently to hear all of his stories. Once Maddie surprised Andy by going into his room a little too early. He let out a shriek because he didn't have his wig on yet. But we all knew he was bald, just like Dad. Andy had wigs for every occasion. Each day was a chance to see something new. We loved hiding when Andy had important people come over. They would huddle around his art and they thought he was really onto something. I knew his paintings were super neat and it made me want to do my own art when I got home. Finally, Dad said it was time to go home. We packed up all our things. Andy was on his way out the door with one of his paintings when I told him we had to leave. Uncle Andy said he had to go sell a painting and go to a party, and he said bye. We went to bed early, and before I knew it, Mom was saying, "Time to get up." We packed the car and were on our way home. As we got older, we made many trips back to New York. I really liked doing art, and I learned that art is something that is all around us all of the time. At home, I made my own art studio. Mom didn't like the mess, but she didn't make me clean it up. She even took me to art class on Saturday mornings. I think Mom is finally understanding what art is all about. All right. Well, Andy Warhol in 1983 created a series of 10 color screen prints of endangered species: the Siberian tiger, a San Francisco silver spot, an orangutan, gray zebra, black rhinoceros, bighorn ram, the African elephant, pine barrens tree frog, a giant panda, and a bald eagle. Today, in honor of Endangered Species Day on May 21st, we will be making some images inspired by Andy Warhol's series. So here we have some nice colorful animals right here. You'll be able to choose whatever colors that you want for your endangered species. I'm going to go ahead and put my sample aside so we can get started with our practice draw. Now I want you to make sure that you're using a pencil, but I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. Make sure that your paper is horizontal, which means side to side. And I'm going to draw a straight line right down the middle of my paper. And then I'm going to do that same thing left to right. Make sure that you're trying your best to make sure it's even on all four sides. Now this is our practice draw, but we do need to make sure that we are drawing our animals pretty big because we do want to see it. We don't want teeny tiny little animals. So for this first one, we're going to draw a circle. In the right box on the top, we're going to draw a tall rainbow. And in this box, we're going to draw a small circle. And then a bigger circle. All right, so make sure that your circles are roughly the same size as mine and that your rainbow is pretty tall. But that is actually it for our practice draw. We're just going to go right into our final draw next, and we're going to draw those animals. All right, so make sure that your new piece of paper is nice and clean. This is the one that we're going to be coloring on. Make sure you're still using that pencil, but I'm still using my Sharpie so you can see my lines. All right, let's go to the top of our paper, making sure that it's horizontal, side to side. We're going to draw that straight line up and down. And then left to right. So you should have 4 rectangles in your picture. The first one, what we're going to do is we're going to draw that circle. It's not too big, but not too small. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top left of that circle and draw a curved line on the left and a curved line on the right. We're then going to draw the top of our orangutan's head. We're going to start on the left. We're going to draw that curved line all the way around to the right side. And then we'll draw those shoulders coming down. All right, we do need to draw those ears, which are a letter C and a backwards C. 2 small circles for the eyes. 2 lines for the nose. And a smile. So there's our orangutan. On our next box, we do need to draw a tall rainbow. Now, if you're still working on your orangutan, you can always press pause on that video. I'm going to draw that rainbow. Inside that rainbow, I'm going to go almost to the bottom and draw some U-shaped curves. I'm going to go to the left side of my rainbow, draw a curve going out and straight line. Now, do you see that point right there? We actually need to curve that up to create the beak. Draw a rainbow with a circle underneath for the eye. So now we have our eagle. All right, the next one, we're going to draw a small circle. This is going to be for our butterfly's head. Long U-shaped curve. And another long U-shaped curve. This one's really long. Because then we'll draw those wings curving out, and back in, out, back in, down and in, down and in for our butterfly. Do you need to draw that one last circle? It's pretty big. We're going to draw a letter C. It's pretty big. And a backward C. We'll draw a curve on the left and the right. 2 circles for the eyes. And then curve, curve, and connect. So, since this is an elephant and that nose is in the way, we do need to make sure we take our eraser and we erase this line right here. And that is it for our final draw. Make sure that your picture looks similar to mine. If you're still working on any of those endangered species, go ahead and take a moment to pause the video and keep working on it. But when you are done with your picture, it should look something like this. So this is mine drawn in pencil. I can go ahead and put my pencil aside. I made sure that that line was erased right here. What we're going to do next is we're going to be taking out our Sharpie. And we're going to outline all of our pencil lines and we're going to fill in those small eyes as well. So take that Sharpie, make sure your cap is on the back. We're holding low and going slow. Take your time with this. There's no need to rush. And don't forget to also fill in those eyes. Outline. And don't forget to also outline those lines as well. Make sure that each of your animals are separated. Again, there's a lot that we need to trace over, so take your time. There's no rush. You can always pause the video. Alright, just about halfway done with my picture. My butterfly doesn't have eyes, so I don't need to worry about filling that in. Alright. And then our elephant. Don't forget to fill in those eyes. Alright, almost done with my elephant. Again, if you're still working on any of your animals by the time I'm done, no worries, you can always press pause. And when you're done, you're going to go ahead and put that Sharpie aside, but do take out your eraser and erase any of those pencil lines that you may see on your paper because we no longer need those pencil lines. So I've got quite a few around my elephant and a lot around my butterfly. All right, I'm just about done. Just being extra careful, making sure that I did get all of those pencil lines. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be moving on to our markers. Now the fun thing about this picture that we're doing is that we're doing it in the Andy Warhol style. So he was famous for his pop art, which is really colorful. So with your picture, you can actually choose whatever colors that you want. You're more than welcome to follow along with me, but if you'd like to choose a different color for your animals, you can go ahead and do so. For my orangutan though, I do want him to be orange, but I'm going to give him a yellow nose and ears. So I'm going to take my yellow Mr. Sketch marker, put that cap on the back. I'm going to outline those ears and fill them in. And same with the nose. Outline and fill them in. All right, so again, you can choose any color that you wanted for those ears and nose, but you can follow along with me, and I chose yellow. Now, orangutans are kind of this orangey color, so I could choose any color that I wanted to. However, I really do like an orange orangutan, so I'm going to go ahead and take my orange, put that cap on the back. I'm going to outline, starting with the head first. Then I'll fill that in. So I'll start with the head first. And just like I did with my yellow, I'm using those long strokes top to bottom. And I'm making sure that I'm getting all of my white spots. All right, long strokes, top to bottom. All right, and then those shoulders, outline, and fill them in. And same on this side. All right. Good job on filling in that area. Do make sure that you got all those white spots. I'm missing just a little bit on my nose right here, so I'm going to take care of that. If you're still working on your orangutan, go ahead and press pause on the video. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my eagle next. And I want him to have a yellow head, but just like with your orangutan, you can choose any color that you would like. So I'm going to take my yellow, and I'm going to outline. And then I'll fill it in with those nice long strokes, top to bottom. And make sure you're getting all of those white spots. Using the side of your marker with those long strokes really helps to make the process go a little bit faster. But all we ask of Fibo is just that you try your best. You're doing a great job so far. All right. Once you're done coloring that head, you're then going to choose any color that you would like. Excuse me. And you're going to color the beak and the rest of the neck. So I'm going to take my light green, outline, and fill it in. Outline. fill that in. All right, again, you could use any color that you wanted. I'm just going to stick with that color though. And I'm going to move on to my butterfly next. Again, you can choose any color you want. I'm going to choose purple, my favorite color, for my butterfly's body. I'm going to outline, fill in, outline, fill in, outline, fill in. All right, next I'm going to grab that light blue and I'm going to color those wings by making sure that cap's on the back. I'm outlining. Outlining. And filling that in. And filling that in. And same on this side. Whoops. Going just around there. All right, so there is my butterfly. If you're still working on filling in that butterfly, press pause on the video. I am going to move on to my elephant. And just like with the rest of your animals, you can choose any color that you'd like. I'm going to go for pink though. And I'm going to fill in my entire elephant pink. So I'm outlining. You can either do this by sections, or you can outline the entire thing and then fill it in. After I've outlined, I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. I'll start on those ears first. And then the head. And don't forget to get around those eyes. We don't want to leave any white spots. And then fill that in. All right, that was our last step with our Mr. Sketch markers. If you are still working on anything, you can go ahead and press pause on the video. We are going to be moving on to our oil pastels next. And we're just going to be adding some of those textures onto our animals just so they look a little bit more realistic. Now, depending on what color that you colored your animals determines on what color you're going to be using for those patterns. So for example, my orangutan right here is orange. So I need to choose a darker warm color for my orangutan. So I'm going to be using red to see those lines. And I'm just going to be adding some up and down lines for that fur. And I'm only adding it to the orange part of my orangutan. But for the part here, that's like connected to his neck, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 lines. So again, around the head and the shoulders, I added short lines. On the neck, those long lines. All right, once you are done with your orangutan, We're going to move on to your eagle. Now my eagle's head is yellow, but depending on what color you use, you do need to decide what color of oil pastel you're going to use. So since I use yellow, I'm going to use a darker color like orange. And I am going to add some U-shaped curves for some feathers. Now I'm only going to add it to the bottom of my neck. All right, now for the butterfly, this time we're going to be adding some spots. Now since I have light blue here, I want to make sure that I use a lighter color so I can see those spots. So I'm going to use my lighter blue because it's even lighter than this blue on my paper. And I'm going to add 3 large circles on my butterfly's wings by drawing a circle and filling it in. Draw a circle, fill it in. Draw a circle, fill it in. Circle, fill in. And just draw those circles. And that is it for the butterfly. Now my elephant is pink. However, my pink oil pastel is really light and won't show up on my elephant. So I'm actually going to switch to red. And first I'm going to draw a letter C and a backward C on those ears. After you've drawn that letter C and backward C, you're going to go to the nose and draw some short lines for the wrinkles on the nose. And that is it for our oil pastel step. If you're still working on any part of your picture, go ahead and take that moment to press pause and finish up any of those lines or U-shaped curves or those circles, because we are going to be putting our oil pastels away and we're going to be taking our chalk pastels. Now for those chalk pastels, you can use any color you want for the background. You could have it all one same color or a different color. For my orangutan, I'm going to be using light blue. And the reason I'm using light blue is because blue and orange are complementary colors. So I'm going to be using that light blue. And then I'll blend. So you have to be very careful as you blend. You don't need a lot of dust for this step. Again, you can choose any color that you would like. Next, I'm going to be using orange, but you can choose any color that you would like. I'm going to take my orange. Put that back, and you're going to blend that background. All right, and try your best to get as close as you can to those lines. If you need to add some extra dust, you can go ahead and do so. Just make sure you are blending it into that background and getting all those white spots. All right, if you've got some extra dust, you can just tap it on your table. Next, I'm going to be using a yellow-green, but again, you can choose any color. Just make sure you're not using black or brown, please. And I'm going to be using yellow-green on that background. Then I will blend. All right. Last and certainly not least is my elephant. You can choose any color. I'm going to use yellow. And I'm just pinching and pulling in that background. and blending. And I'm making sure I'm getting as close as I can to those ears and the neck and the shoulders. If you need to take a moment to just go back and blend any of those colors, again, you can go ahead and do so. But that was our final step for our picture inspired by Andy Warhol's Endangered Species. Let's go ahead and take a moment to clean up our area. If you are still using those chalk pastels, just keep going. I'm just gonna go ahead, clean up my area, and I'll make sure to grab a wet wipe and clean that table. And also make sure to clean your hands too. Mine kind of looked like I ate a bag of Cheetos. So make sure to clean your table and your hands as best as you can because you are done with your picture. Great job on drawing all 4 of those different animals. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a lot of fun learning about Andy Warhol and his endangered species that we drew today. Please post your pictures online on our Fibo Village page. We would love to see them. And we will see you next time. Bye!